Hey everyone, it is Monday morning, and that means we kick off our expert series with Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So I cheated for today's topic. I won't lie. I actually saw you put out a quick video about should you get your GC license. So I thought we would jump into that one, but broaden it out so we can talk about it
hmm
for 20 or 30 minutes. Because when you think real estate, all the different things you and I talk about, there are lots of different licenses or certifications that one could get. So what do you think about that? Let's jump into that topic because I'm sure we both get that a lot. What do you think?
Yeah. Big question we get all the time, as well as the other ones, and especially right now because inventory levels are so low.
Hmm.
Development is a good way to go. So I get that question from house flippers and from people looking to get into development, which
Okay.
that's the majority of everybody who reaches out to me, as well as in the syndication world. So I started as a general contractor. I started as a remodeling handyman contractor. Then I got my GC license. So for
Yep.
me, it was just a natural progression.
Okay.
So the question really comes from somebody who has zero experience. So we have to qualify the answer, right?
Yep.
So the answer is if you're in the trades, you've come up that way, you've got the skills and experience, absolutely. Get your GC license. It is a business. You can leverage the equity as a general contractor into the deal. So what I did was I had a 20-25% margin equity in all my deals as the GC.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hire my company to do the project for me. And that kept me from having to come out of pocket with a lot of capital because I had that equity built in, or I could get the money back, through building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can leverage that 20-25% equity as a general contractor. But again, that's if you know what you're doing, you have experience, and you understand it is a business that
Right.
requires insurance, expertise, connections, all that. So if you're in that world, it's
Mm-hmm.
a great thing to have. Now, if you're not, and you're just the average investor and you know real estate, but you know nothing about construction, don't waste your time with it. Hire the general contractors, leverage their expertise and experience,
Mm-hmm.
find a good one like I was that will partner with you on your deals. When I say partner, what I mean is when I was coming up, I had 4 or 5 key investors that I like to work with
Mm-hmm.
that I did multiple projects for. So I gave them a discount.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't pay the full 20-25%, especially if they did a number of projects in one area. I would only charge them 10% or a flat fee. They would pay all the costs. We had that good relationship, like a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And some people we did partner together, but that's the way to do it if you're not a construction professional. What do you think?
Well, I think that's right. I want to go back to the very beginning for you because I get the same question. I don't get the GC question. I get the should I go get my real estate license question.
Yeah, that's another one. We can hit that next.
Yeah, let's stay on the GC side. So when you were first that handyman, because when we did our first interview, the first time we ever met, we talked about you having a truck and a toolbox, if I remember the
Yeah.
title, right? A year and a half ago or so. When you were the truck and the toolbox guy,
Yes.
you thinking already real estate investing, or were you like, how can I get the next job to put food on the table? I just want to make sure I level set where you were when you were just that guy 20 or 25 years ago.
No, it wasn't real estate. So again, I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So from a business standpoint, I came from a corporate restaurant background, so I understood business. I knew about that. I'd moved to that place to open restaurants, got into construction instead.
Okay.
So my mindset was build businesses.
Got it.
That was my mindset. Build a business that's going to generate cash flow. Then I can invest in other assets. So real estate investing wasn't part of my strategy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never invested in real estate. I'd owned 2 houses that I lived in.
Yeah.
So I knew real estate from that standpoint. I may have read some stuff here or there, but to me, I just didn't know the world of real estate,
Yeah.
investment and development, all that. I was just trying to build a business to
Yep.
build to bring in money because I'd never made a lot of money at that point. Most I'd ever made was 50, 60 grand a year.
Yeah.
And, at that point, so that was, so getting out, like I said, my first job I ever did, I think I made $500 in one day building a little deck. To me, I was like, dang, I'm
Yeah.
set. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
figured
I'm
it
like, I
out.
remember I was thinking, man, I don't ever have to worry about money again. I don't, and you got to understand where I came from. I wasn't
Right.
worried about money, but what I knew about making money was you had to work, 7 days a week, 12,
Yep.
14 hours a day, and just bang it out. Right.
Right.
And I'd had little construction businesses along the way prior to this, but it was me swinging the hammer on site. So that was my mindset. I didn't know how to leverage,
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
But I'd worked in the restaurant industry, so I understood employees and business models and systems. So that's what I set out to do. I set
Right.
out to build a business that generated cash flow that I could invest in other assets and that I didn't have to work in
Mm-hmm.
every single day to generate the income. So that was my first mindset.
Yeah. So let me just kind of summarize that, what I'm hearing you say. So again, you were building a business that would generate excess cash
Hmm.
that you would then take that excess cash, buy assets that would build over time and ultimately allow you to do something else at some time in the future.
Right.
Got it. Okay. And that's the right way to go, right? You picked your focus, you got good at it, you did those things. It's kind of the same thing with, the question I get about being a real estate agent, right? Go get
Yeah.
your
For
license.
me though, so one thing,
Mhm.
so for me, it was one business at a time, not one rental. So what I
Ah,
did, again, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rich Dad had a lot of businesses,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
So to me, real estate wasn't attainable at the time because I didn't have the income, I didn't have the
Ah,
credit, and I didn't know how to raise capital.
got
So
it.
my thinking was I needed multiple businesses, just like Rich Dad.
Yeah.
Then I would have all this money that I could buy these apartment buildings that Kiyosaki was talking
Yeah.
about, right?
That's
So
interesting. Yeah.
that's what I did. So I had my building company. I grew that, and then when I removed myself from the day to day,
Mhm.
then it was a plumbing company, pool spa landscaping, storm shutter, retail, restaurants. I started owning these other businesses.
That's so interesting. Rich Dad,
Yes.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was both a monumental book for both of us. And
Hmm.
it's so awesome how it spoke to us differently,
Hmm.
right? It spoke to me about, okay, go repeat what he did with that condo in Honolulu he talked about. All right, go do
Yeah.
that a few times. And you, it's like, oh, go, I think it was, what was it, like a Velcro wallet and these other
Yeah.
things that he talked about having,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
I've read the book a few times, as you can tell.
And more of Rich Dad, because he kept talking about Rich Dad. He would come in there, and all these people would be coming to Rich Dad's
Yep,
office, and
I remember.
he had all these businesses. That was where I went.
That is awesome. I had
Because
never
that's where
put
I
two
came
and two.
from.
Yeah,
So, my background to
funny.
that point was the restaurant industry. And in restaurants, you have to have multiple locations.
Yeah.
And the books that I was reading were all business focused in terms of running a conglomerate, multiple companies, multiple businesses. I read the 1 Minute Manager, how to build, recruit, hire, train, build, and lead, and delegate, motivate, right? So that was
Yeah.
me. So I didn't know real estate at the time. So I didn't know how to apply that to real estate, but I
Interesting.
knew how to apply it to business. So that's what I did. Then my eyes were open to real estate, and I applied the same principles to real estate. And that's how I was able to do as much as I did in real estate so fast, because I did the same thing.
Wow. That's awesome. So let's stay on the GC side first before
Mhm.
we just jump and pivot to real estate agents. So again, if that's your plan, if you're building a business, if it is the way you want to focus, it obviously works. You're a proof positive of that. But let's talk about where it doesn't work. At least on the real estate agent side,
Mhm.
there are some people that ask, they think it's the silver bullet. They think it's the answer to all. They don't really want to be in the business. They don't have a background. They don't understand the insurance and the licensing and all of that. I have to imagine you get the question sometimes, and the answer is no. You should not become a GC for at least some people.
Yeah, for most people, because again, the learning curve is so huge. If you don't know what you're doing, the learning curve is huge. And a lot of people think they're going to save money by
Yeah.
swinging the hammer themselves or by managing the projects themselves. Now, again, depending on what it is. So if you're just doing cosmetic flips,
Mhm.
it's just paint, carpet, kitchen, stuff like that,
Yeah.
you can have a project manager and they can manage the workflow and manage subcontractors. And even then, I tell people, don't waste your time going to Lowe's or sending that project manager to Lowe's. Let the subcontractors supply all the materials, do it turnkey. So
Mm.
all you're managing is the labor and the job flow. Now, again, my recommendation to everybody, the way to scale and the way to have a lifestyle business, a business that you can operate anywhere in the world from anywhere in the world, is turnkey. Have contractors turnkey, they handle it all. You don't even have to manage a project. You got a clear contract with, definitive times, schedules, dollars, all that kind of stuff. Let them deal with it. Let them go get the materials, manage all the subs, do all that. But people don't listen. So if you're going to do it that way, and you want to have a project manager, just make sure it's just the cosmetic stuff. Number one, because it requires permits in most
Sure.
areas if it's not just cosmetic. And number two, um, let them do it turnkey so that they supply everything. They're the ones running the Lowe's, not you. It's on their dime, not yours. And they warranty everything. So if you're supplying materials, you got to cover the materials, and then you get into that dispute when something goes wrong. Well, you
Yeah.
supplied the faucet and the faucet broke, so I'm not covering it,
Right.
or the light fixture or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
that's my advice to everybody. That's how you scale a business. I've done it in my own business.
Yeah.
And I evolved out of the GC role. When I was done with that, I now hire contractors turnkey, general contractors. I don't even manage subs, unless it's, if it's a painting job or something on some, I'll just call one of my painters, hey man, can you go knock that out?
Right.
But, for the most part, I don't, the way to scale, the way to have a
Yeah.
lifestyle that you can do whatever you want, wherever you want, from wherever you want, is to turnkey, subcontract, let everybody let everybody do it all turnkey.
That's awesome. So let's close this out by just painting your timeline, right? So when you started as a truck in a toolbox
Mm-hmm.
to where you started expanding businesses, try to give them a rough estimate. Was it 5 years, 6 years, 10 years? Just give somebody a timeline. That way, if they really are thinking about becoming a GC, they can at least know the amount, because it's work, it's
Yeah.
effort, right?
You know, it's work. And, again, I didn't know the business. I didn't know how to build houses. So I evolved as it went, but I did it in 7 years. So I went from
Okay.
zero to $30 million building company in 7 years
Wow.
and started 12 other businesses right along with it. So
that's not normal.
Yeah, I do it. I'm a doer, right? I just take action and make it happen. So I think probably the first year was spent me doing most of everything, hiring my first people, part-time bookkeeper, full-time guy in the field. Then maybe my second guy over that first year going from 250,000 to, 750. And then I probably bought my first company, additional company, maybe 2 years after that first one that I started, which was a plumbing company. That was my next acquisition. Then I started, buying all these other companies probably 3 to 5 years in, all the way up until the last 7th year when I sold everything and I'd sold all the other businesses. I might've still had the pool spa landscaping company at that time. I can't remember, but, and then I've done, multiples after that. Still today, I'm involved in a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
And, I'm still buying businesses. I'm doing more of that than real estate right now.
Yeah.
Right at the moment, just because there's a lot of opportunities out there based on the economy and what's happening right now. But, yeah, the bulk of it was the first 7 years. Then when I learned,
Yeah.
I got rid of the building company, sold it, switched to becoming a developer, and then my whole business model changed, and I became a real estate investor, developer versus a general contractor.
One last question before we move on to the next one was all of these businesses, they were all geographically based, within 100 miles of your primary home? Something like
less
that?
than that. They were all in my immediate area. Yeah.
Right.
Cause I was connected in the community and people knew me, and, if somebody needed help in a business or had an opportunity, they would just come see me, and I was just known as that guy. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But where I was going with that is I'm curious is today, right? You mentioned you're buying more businesses today. Is the same answer true? Are you still geographically,
I'm all over the world now. So
now you're all over the world. Okay.
Yeah. International. So I'm involved from an
wow.
equity standpoint in some companies overseas, in Europe. I'm also involved in companies all over the country, here in the United States. So, so now, because again, I'm not in them, and it's not like it was before. It's more of an equity stake in exchange for intellectual capital and connections.
Yep.
So that's what I do now. So I'm not buying a business and actually running that business or managing it. I'm taking equity and taking positions in exchange for, capital and intellectual capital.
All right. Maybe next week we'll jump into that, because I think that could be its own topic, because I'm curious. I guess I'll just ask it here. Is it much different buying companies out of the U.S. than in the U.S.? I mean, rules, regulations, all of that, or given its equity?
Every country's different. The rules are different. The game is different. Yeah. So yeah, it's very different outside the country than it is the United States. But business is business. It's income and expenses. It's marketing and sales, and it's people.
Nice.
People, operations, profit. Right. So those are your 3 essentials of business.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, here, let's switch gears into the question that I get. This might either be the most or the second most question I get, and that is, should I get my real estate license? Any thoughts on that before I kind of jump into my thoughts?
Yeah, so I did, so that was the next evolution. Started just remodeling handyman. Then I got my general contractor's license, actually, that was 3 years into the business when I got my GC license. And then my next evolution, after I paid my realtor $300,000 one year, I started getting my license. So, I was doing a lot of buying and selling at that point, doing spec houses, investing. So I got my license for that reason. So contrary to popular belief, there is no more liability. There is no downside to having your real estate license. Okay. You just have to disclose. You just have to let people know you're licensed. That's all. And then in some states, you have to put that in the contract if you're buying or selling, that, the owner is a licensed realtor. So it's definitely an asset to have if you're in the business and you're going to be doing a lot of deals, because you can capture, the commission on the buy and save it on the sell. And then you get MLS access and things like that. You can get referral fees. So if you're in the business and you've got residual activity and you don't want to be an agent, that's fine. Refer it out and you can get paid a referral fee. If you're not an agent, you can get a marketing fee in some states, but you can't get referral fees, right? So I think if you're in the business and that's what you're doing, it's a great thing to have. You can learn a lot getting your real estate license. You learn about rules, laws, all of the things that go along with, real estate contract law in your state, in your area. But again, it's something that requires fees.
Yep.
It's going to cost you a couple grand a year. You got to do continuing ed. There's a lot of things that go along with it. But I've had my license in my two main markets, for, I don't know, since 2001, probably.
That's cool. So one of the things that I did, just to kind of give background to my story, is obviously I left the workforce February 1st of 18. One of the first things I did is I went out and got my real estate license because I just didn't know, right? I was a full-time employee. I had no time to do it. I'm now out of the work. I'm like, hey, let's go get the license, right? Took the, whatever it was, 120 hours or whatever it is, passed the test. And I personally won't be renewing my license when it comes up. I think it's good for 2 years in California.
Uh-huh.
And the reason is a couple of fold. First off, I hate paperwork, right? I just hate it. Second, I work out agreements with agents to discounts here and there, but I cover that cost. And then just more importantly, that's not what I want to do. That's not my area of focus. I don't want the continuing education, all of that. So the other thing is, I honestly thought, this was my belief. I believe there was secret information in the MLS.
Yeah.
There might have been in the 80s and 90s. There isn't today. There's no special.
Well, I wouldn't say secret, but in some areas you can't get all of the details of the history of the property through the MLS and, what it closed for, how many days, like how many days on market, all that kind of stuff. So there is some proprietary information based on the property history and the details of the transaction that you can't get accurately up to date on Zillow or Realtor.com or anywhere else.
Yep.
So that's really the only advantage to that MLS access nowadays. And, I think the whole real estate game is changing, and the whole MLS game is, it's going to be a thing of the past here soon. All that information will soon be out there.
Yeah, there's more and more all the time. Even when I started back in 2002 to what's available today, it's night and day. So for me, my opinion, it wasn't worth it. Again, I don't live in my market, right? I don't like paperwork. I don't like all these things. But when I get the question, the person asking it usually has this bias. They think getting their license is the secret to printing money and the secret to getting deals. So when I get that question, I always have to scratch a little bit and go like, well, what do you want to do? And always, for me, it's also always, what do you want to do first? Right? If you're interested in real estate investing, is the right thing to do to spend 90 days learning the contract and the verbiage? I would say no. I would say you should spend 90 days learning your market, right? It's about creating and finding deals and building a network. It's not about burying yourself in, 120 hours of education. That's what I think.
Yeah. So again, it's like you said, it all depends on what you want to do. And, for people that are full-time investors, especially on the residential side, even on the commercial, but more on the residential, if you are licensed and you're marketing for motivated sellers, you can monetize every lead that comes in.
That's
because
true.
if you can't buy it, you could list it, you could refer it, get a commission. I mean, there's more ways to monetize your ad spend.
Absolutely.
So it can be advantageous there. But like you said, for what you do and for a lot of people like you, it can be a waste of time if you can leverage those relationships with realtors in other ways, not have to deal with it. So it just depends on what your business model is and what it is that you want to do.
Absolutely.
And what your goals and desires are. But as far as becoming a realtor, man, that's a whole nother business. It's a whole nother, can of worms. And it's a grind, man. To make money in real estate as a realtor, you can do it. You can do extremely well, but you got to build systems and a team, and it's a contact sport, and you got to constantly be out there. And right now it's very difficult because there's not very much inventory. So
listings are
having a hard time right now.
Yeah. So what I always tell people is I really want to ask them why. And the most common answer is they think the license equals deals. And that is not true. I mean, occasionally you'll get a phone call from a motivated seller because you're licensed or somebody in your network, but you can have that anyways. That license isn't the secret sauce to getting a deal, in my opinion. You should spend the 90 days, especially if you're like me, working full time. If you have a day job, you're raising a family, and then you think getting a license is going to help you, I don't know, 95% of the time, the answer is no. You should spend that extra 20 to 30 minutes a day learning your market, seeing what's going on. Not what is, section 2, bullet point 1 mean, and declare, disclose. I mean, it's the wrong thing, in my opinion. Yeah. So what about appraisal licenses? I mean, in real estate, there's all these other things you can get certified for and collect fees on. Any of them come across as a good idea?
Yeah, appraisal is definitely not, because that's a whole can of worms there where,
Yeah.
you've got an education component, you have to work under somebody,
Yeah.
for a while, I think, and all that kind of stuff, which real estate kind of works the same way in many states to get your broker's license. But yeah, I think appraisal licensing, man, that's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
I don't see that, and it's low fees. I mean, you're not making any money there.
Yeah. Much lower now. 10 years ago, they weren't bad, but they've cut those down big time.
Yeah, commercial's a little higher, but it's much more detailed, bigger learning curve there, home inspections.
Mhm.
I mean, so there's some value in some of those courses,
Yes.
but in terms of getting your license and pursuing that, no, I mean, it's low ticket, high volume, and, a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. Again, I think going back to it's amazing how Rich Dad Poor Dad spoke to us differently. That has never dawned on me before. But now that I
Yeah.
think about it, I'm like, you're right. It could, based on how you internalize it, you could see it go build businesses or go be a landlord.
Well, what I looked at was the mentor of the book was the Rich Dad. It wasn't
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki. So a lot of people looked at Kiyosaki as the mentor. I went straight to the source. I'm like, I want to be Rich Dad.
You went to the top.
Right. That's who I was after.
Oh, I missed the point of the book. Oh man, I gotta
Now
go
you
read
gotta
it
reread
again.
it.
I gotta read it again.
Yeah.
Actually, it's behind that sign. I may read it again.
Yeah.
That is hilarious to me.
That's what resonated with me when I read the story, and it was always him talking about going into his rich dad's office and seeing all these people come in. And, so I almost ignored everything he said and did. I looked at what was Rich Dad doing? I want to be that guy, kind of like as a general contractor becoming a developer. Okay. I was working as a remodeling contractor before I got my license, I was working for other investors. Okay. And these guys were coming in. I mean, one of them was like the second in command at Citibank, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Dude, he had a wine cellar that was on his balance sheet as an asset of like 10 million, right? I mean,
Jesus.
Who has a $10 million wine cellar? Oof. The dude raced, Ferraris and Lamborghinis on the weekend. So he's coming in, buying these $1 million beach houses, hiring me to do these additions, and then he's flipping them and making $500,000-600,000. Wow. So I'm like, I want to be you.
I want to be that.
I don't want to be the guy hiring the plumber and swinging a hammer. I want to be you. And I went up and I asked him. I said, man, I want to do what you're doing. How do you get there? Yeah. And he's like, look, man, I'm Citibank number 2. And I said, no, I want to do these deals. How do I do the deal?
Yeah, I don't care about that. I want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So he started explaining to me how finance worked and all that. So I just, I didn't even know. So, I mean, these are the things that I learned as I went along. Then I started reading more real estate books, and then I started getting into deals myself. And like I said, my first deal was a lot flip that a realtor that was doing my stuff came to me and said, hey, we can buy this lot. My dad has a client that'll pay us 30 grand more than we buy it for. And I'm like, can you do that? He's like, sure. So he said, you put up the money, I'll do the rest. So I bought it. And, 30 days later, we flipped it to this other guy because the market was escalating that fast, to where he knew if we could buy it under market value, just like any wholesale deal, that we can get under market value and then, turn around, let my dad list it and he'll get it, 30, 40 grand more for it. So, we did it. I put the money up. We split the profit. I made 15 grand in 30 days off of 100. And I was like, dang,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, because I think in time value of money, velocity of the cash, right?
Sure.
So I'm thinking, you might say 15 grand on 100 is not that big of a deal. What if you do it 8 times a year?
Well, annualize that, right? 15 times
or
12?
Once a month. So 15 grand in a month. I mean, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I can't even. What is that? That's 180%. Right. That's pretty good when you analyze that.
Yeah, and you're talking to a guy who wasn't even making 100 grand a year at the time. I'd put together some cash, for my businesses, but I'd never paid myself at that point.
That's
Again,
amazing.
early in my career, I wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
I didn't make any money until I started building big houses and flipping and doing that. So, for me, 15,000 was more than I made in a month anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool, man. I think we've killed this topic. I think, again, if you want to get your license, if it's part of your business, absolutely. But it's not the secret. It's not the answer. It doesn't unlock anything magical in this business.
Not like it used to be. When I got it back in 2001, you had to have MLS access. There was no other, there was no Zillow, there was no realtor.com. There was nothing. True. Yep. Yeah, we didn't have VRBO or Airbnb, none of that.
None of that. Yes. It's amazing, huh? The world has changed.
And that was just 2001,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely right. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for your time. Any closing thoughts? Actually, why don't you tell them what your YouTube channel is?
Yeah. So it's Greg Dickerson. I'm easy to find. The Greg Dickerson on, the Greg Dickerson Show, I guess, on YouTube, and website's gregdickerson.com. All my info is there. So yeah, check it out.
Yep. Again, guys, I stole today's topic by watching his channel. So I cheat sometimes. All right, buddy. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.